Welcome to Iraqi Dinar News, your go-to source for the most reliable insights on Iraq's currency updates and economic restructuring. As of the current date in the USA, we're looking at a growing wave of reports that suggest a quiet but strategic collaboration is underway between the Central Bank of Iraq and the International Monetary Fund. This partnership appears to be constructing the foundation for a possible revaluation of the Iraqi dinar, a shift that could mark a turning point in the nation's financial outlook. Here's what we're observing. Multiple seasoned analysts monitoring Middle Eastern financial activity have noticed a subtle yet consistent shift away from the long-standing benchmark rate of 1310 IQD per 1 USD. This isn't just a single adjustment. It's part of a carefully calculated progression. The exchange rate has been stepping down in stages, from 1490 to 1460, then to 1429, and now insiders are reporting serious discussion around an upcoming change to 1390. This measured decline is raising eyebrows, not because it signals instability, but because it suggests a coordinated pivot in Iraq's monetary policy. Trusted sources close to ongoing developments, figures like Frank 26 and Firefly Sammy, are pointing out that these moves don't appear to be casual or reactionary. Instead, this may be the beginning of a well-structured initiative, possibly with guidance from the IMF. The underlying goal seems to be building resilience and preparing the dinar for a more dynamic role in international markets. The idea isn't to devalue Iraq's currency, but to engineer a long-term solution that encourages global confidence and investor participation. Iraq's economic struggles are well known, from inflationary pressures and political instability to inefficiencies across its public and financial sectors. Yet this gradual recalibration of the exchange rate doesn't signal panic. In fact, many believe it's a sign that Iraq is deliberately aligning itself with modern economic reform strategies. Experts believe the nation may be aiming to either float its currency more freely or eventually introduce a revised international exchange rate. This deliberate, step-by-step strategy seems designed to minimize the risk of public confusion or investor panic. Past attempts at rapid change within Iraq's currency framework were often met with backlash and disorder. This time, however, the leadership appears to be prioritizing a smooth transition, possibly at the direction of international advisors. Aged, calculated reform model is more in line with global standards, and many countries that successfully restructured their economies took a similar route. More evidence is emerging. Beyond the technical exchange rate adjustments, Iraq is moving to improve its banking operations, implement transparency in forex transactions, and expand its digital payment systems. These shifts, though not always visible to the public, signal that something bigger is in the works. Discussions about red denomination are also gaining ground, a step commonly taken in countries anticipating a meaningful reset in currency value. Redenomination, unlike revaluation, changes the face value of money without affecting its real-world purchasing power. When paired with other reforms, it becomes a sign of broader monetary evolution. Neighboring countries are watching closely. Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey are said to be tracking Iraq's steps with interest. Even the World Bank has increased its monitoring of the dinar's progress. The presence of these regional and global financial observers lends more credibility to the argument that Iraq's monetary trajectory isn't random. It's coordinated and strategic. Every sign points to a country that is actively preparing for something major. So what does this mean for individuals holding the Iraqi dinar? If Iraq maintains this current pace, we could see the exchange rate slide further, from the proposed 1390 to 1200, and possibly down to 1000. If those targets are reached, it might set the stage for a more formal revaluation. That wouldn't just strengthen the currency, it would reset the way Iraq is perceived by global markets. For long-term holders of the IQD who have weathered years of speculation and stagnation, this could finally be the reward they've been waiting for. That said, caution is essential. While momentum is building and expert speculation is growing louder, none of this should be interpreted as financial advice. Any move involving foreign currency requires a careful approach and consultation with licensed financial professionals. Always rely on documentation released by official bodies like the CBI or IMF, and never act solely based on hype or online commentary. As we wrap up this first part, one thing is clear: Iraq is not standing still. These movements, subtle as they may be, are signals of a nation actively retooling its economy from the ground up. While the 1310 figure may remain visible for now, the forces behind the scenes are nudging the dinar into position for what could be a historic turning point. Picking up from where we left off, Iraq's path toward currency reform is not unfolding in isolation. The broader context involves not only local developments, but also the evolving dynamics of international policy, energy exports, and digital modernization. As Iraq ramps up these internal and external shifts, there's rising speculation that this may be part of a larger geopolitical reset, one that echoes some of the economic principles previously supported by former President Trump during his administration. Energy exports, particularly oil, remain Iraq's economic backbone, contributing nearly 90% of the country's national revenue. Recently, Iraq has increased its oil production efficiency and renegotiated favorable contracts with international partners. These improved cash inflows are providing the central bank with additional reserves, potentially giving Iraq more leverage to support a stronger, more stable dinar. A fortified reserve position is crucial if the country plans to realign its exchange rate without risking inflationary backlash. Digital transformation is also becoming a powerful force in Iraq's financial recalibration. In 2025, Iraq began introducing blockchain-based platforms for currency tracking, anti-fraud systems, and enhanced banking transparency. These technologies, while still developing, are key tools for restoring both domestic and international confidence in the dinar. Investors are closely watching Iraq's progress on digital payment systems and real-time forex platforms, both prerequisites for a globally viable currency. There are also reports of increased cooperation with American and European financial entities. Insiders claim that Iraq's central bankers and policymakers are consulting with institutions that once collaborated with former President Trump's administration on Middle East economic stabilization efforts. While not publicly confirmed, it appears that U.S.-linked financial strategies centered around oil-backed assets, regional trade integration, and national currency sovereignty are subtly being mirrored in Iraq's approach. A crucial element that cannot be overlooked is the potential timeline. If Iraq aims to reach a predetermined valuation tier, the movement from 1390 to 1200 and then toward 1000 IQD per 1 USD may be completed in phases over the coming months. Once that psychological threshold of 1000 is crossed, the door opens for a formal announcement, either a float or a full revaluation. If the new rate aligns anywhere close to 1 USD to 1 IQD, as long theorized by optimistic holders, the economic ripple would extend far beyond Iraq's borders. However, it's important to remember that such a leap would require significant backing, both politically and economically. It's not just about adjusting the math, it's about assuring global markets that Iraq has the institutional strength, fiscal discipline, and international support to sustain such a valuation. This is where institutions like the IMF and World Bank become critical players. Their involvement acts as a form of insurance policy for foreign investors and trading partners, confirming that Iraq's policies are being closely vetted and supported. Adding further momentum is Iraq's decision to reduce its dependency on cash-based transactions. The expansion of biometric ID-linked banking, mobile wallets, and e-dinar pilot programs are contributing to financial inclusion and reducing money laundering risks. These steps align with IMF recommendations and further position Iraq for reintegration into the global financial ecosystem. A digitally traceable currency infrastructure provides the transparency and accountability needed for a modern economy preparing for revaluation. Public communication strategies have also shifted. In recent speeches, Iraqi officials have subtly referenced transitional exchange mechanisms and market-driven adjustments without explicitly using the term revaluation. These phrases hint at upcoming changes while avoiding the kind of mass speculation that could trigger chaotic market behavior. Such language mirrors best practices adopted by countries like Egypt and Vietnam during their monetary transitions. For long-time IQD holders, patience may finally be rewarded. The convergence of rate shifts, digital infrastructure, oil revenue stabilization, and global institutional support suggests Iraq is aligning all the pieces for a major financial event. While critics argue that such a transformation is still speculative, the layered moves being made behind the scenes tell a different story. Rarely do governments, especially in volatile regions, pursue this level of systematic reform without a defined endgame. Still, caution remains vital. Investors must base decisions not on online rumors or emotional expectations, but on factual developments confirmed by Iraq's official channels. At the same time, ignoring the signs entirely would be equally unwise. The signals, subtle yet strong, are there. The trajectory is being defined with every new exchange adjustment, banking update, and diplomatic meeting. If Iraq proceeds down this path and does reach the 1:1 rate, or even something modest like 0.1 USD per 1 IQD, the economic consequences would be profound. Millions of dinar holders worldwide would face sudden changes in portfolio values. Regional trade agreements would need updating, financial markets would adjust rapidly, but above all, the Iraqi people could finally see their national currency restored as a symbol of economic sovereignty rather than a relic of past instability. In closing, the story of the Iraqi dinar is still unfolding, but the signs are becoming increasingly difficult to ignore. A country once written off by investors is now making quiet, deliberate moves to rebuild its financial identity. With guidance from global partners, revenue growth from oil, support from advanced financial tech, and perhaps influence from earlier US-led policy models, Iraq may be nearing a tipping point. As always, Iraqi Dinar News will continue to monitor every development so that you remain fully informed during this potentially historic transformation. Stay alert, stay informed, and never stop learning, because in the world of currency revaluation, timing and information are everything.